Reason and Empire. Large states like those of the Cholas, chapter 2, Tughlaq, chapter 3, or Mughals, chapter 4, encompassed many regions. A Sanskrit Prashasti, see chapter 2 for an example of a Prashasti. Praising the Delhi Sultan in Ghiyasuddin Balban 1266 to 1287 explained that he was the ruler of the vast empire that stretched from Bengal, Gauda in the east to Gajna in Afghanistan in the west and included all of South India, Dravida. People of different regions, Gauda, Andhra, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, apparently fled before his armies. Historians look at the map. Sebastian, Uch, Multan, Kalnor, Lahore, Samana, Shristri, Kurm, Hansi, Delhi, Badaयूं, Kannauj, Kara, Awadh, Bihar, Lakhnati, Janagar, Malwa, Gujarat, Devagiri, Telangana, Talinj, Dravasmudra, Mabar. Regard these as exaggerated claims of conquest. At the same time, they try to understand why rulers kept claiming to have control over different parts of the subcontinent. Language and reason. In 1318, the poet Amir Khusro noted that there was a different language in every region of this land. Sindhi, Lahori, Kashmiri, Dravasmudri in southern Karnataka, Telangani in Andhra Pradesh, Gujri in Gujarat, Mabari in Tamil Nadu, Gauri in Bengal, Avdi in eastern Uttar Pradesh, and Hindui in the area around Delhi. Amir Khusro went on to explain that in contrast to these languages, there was Sanskrit which did not belong to any religion. It was an old language and common people do not know it. Only the Brahmins do. Make a list of the language mentioned by Amir Khusro. Prepare another list of the names of languages spoken today in the regions he mentioned. Underline name that are similar and circle those that are different. Did you notice that the names by which language are known have changed over time? By 700, many regions already possess distinct geographical dimensions and their own language and cultural characteristics. You will learn more about these in chapter 9. They were also associated with specific ruling dynasties. There was considerable conflict between these states. Occasionally, dynasties like the Cholas, Khaljis, Tughlaq, and Mughals were able to build an empire that was pan regional, spanning in diverse regions. Not all these empires were equally stable or successful. Compare, for example, Table 1 in Chapter 3 and 4. What was duration of the rules of Khalji and Mughal dynasties? When the Mughal Empire declined in the 18th century, it led to the re-emergence of regional states, Chapter 10. But years of imperial pan-regional rule had altered the character of the regions across most of the subcontinent. The regions were left with the legacies of the big and small states that had ruled over them. This was apparent in the emergence of many distinct and shared traditions in realms of governance, the management of the economy, elite cultures, and language. Uh, Through the thousand years between 700 and 1750, the character of the different regions did not grow in isolation. These regions felt the impact of larger pan-regional forces of integrations without ever quite losing their distinctiveness. Old and new religions. The 1,000 years of history that we are exploring witnessed major developments in religious tradition. People's belief in the divine was sometimes deeply personal, but more usually it was collective. Collective beliefs in a supernatural agency. Religion was often closely connected with the social and economic organization of local communities. As the social world of these groups altered, so too did their beliefs. It was during this period that important changes occurred in what we call Hinduism today. These included the worship of new deities, the constructions of temples by royalty, and the growing importance of Brahmins, the priests as dominant groups in society. The knowledge of Sanskrit text earned the Brahmins a lot of respect in society. Their dominant position was consolidated by the support of their dominant position was consolidated by the support of their patrons. New rulers searching for prestige. On the major developments of this period was the emergence of the idea of bhakti, of a loving personal deity that devotees could reach without the aid of priests or elaborate rituals. You will be learning about this and other tradition in chapter 8. This was also the period of when new religions appeared in the subcontinent. Merchants and migrants first brought the teachings of the Holy Quran in India in the 7th century. Muslims regard the Quran as their holy book and accept the sovereignty of the one God, Allah, whose love, mercy, and bounty embrace all those who believe in Him without regard to social background. Many rulers were patrons of Islam, and the ulama learned theologians and jurists. Unlike Hinduism, Islam was interpreted in a variety of ways by its followers. There were the Shia Muslims who believed that the Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law Ali was the legitimate leader of the Muslim community, and Sunni Muslims who accepted the authority of the early leaders, Khalifas of the community, and the succeeding Khalifas. There were other important differences between the various schools of law, Hanafi and Shafi, mainly in India, and in theology and mystic tradition. Thinking about time and historical period, historians do not see time just as a passing of hours. They are years, as a clock or a calendar. Time also reflects change in social and economic organization, in the persistence and transformation of ideas and beliefs. Study of time is made somewhat easier by dividing the past into large segments, periods that possesses shared characteristics. In the middle of the 19th century, British historians divided the history of India into three periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. The division was based on the idea that the religion of rulers was the only important historical change, and that there were no other significant development in the economic, society, or culture. Such as division also ignored the rich diversity of the subcontinent. Few historians follow these periodizations today. Most look to economic and social factors to characterize the major elements of different moments of the past. The histories you read last year included a wide range of early societies: hunter gatherer, early farmers, people living in towns and villages, and early empires and kingdoms. The histories you will be studying this year are often described as medieval. You will find out more about the spread of peasant societies, the rise of regional and imperial state formations, sometimes at the cost of pastoral and forest people, the development of Hinduism and Islam as major religions, and the arrival of European trading companies. These 1,000 years of Indian history witnessed considerable change. After all, the 16th and 18th century were quite different from the 8th or the 11th. Therefore, describing the entire period as one historical unit is not without its problem. Moreover, the medieval period is often contrasted with the modern period. Modernity carries with it a sense of material progress and intellectual advancement. This seems to suggest that the medieval period was lacking in any change whatsoever, but our courts we know this was not the case. During these thousand years, the society of the subcontinent were transformed often and economics in several regions. Prosperity that attract the interest of European trading companies. As you read this book, look out for signs of change and the historical process at work. Also, whenever you can, compare what you read in this book with what you read last year. Look out for changes and continues wherever you can, and look at the world around you. See what else has changed or remained the same. Imagine you are a historian, choose one of the mentioned in this chapter, such as economic, social, or political history, and discuss why you think it would be interesting to find out the history of that theme. Thank you.